As Christian men, we are called to surrender our lives to Jesus. To surrender to Jesus means to give in, not to give up. We are called to use our strengths, abilities, and opportunities to grow and prosper. We are called to strengthen ourselves, our families, and our communities. We are called to be disciplined, courageous, and honorable. This is Surrendered Strength. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Surrendered Strength Radio. I'm your host, Nylan Lansing. I'm glad to have you here. And today's episode is probably going to be a little shorter. It just kind of came off of a 10-hour overnight shift. And I just wanted to share with you some thoughts that I had during a conversation with a fellow coworker throughout our shift, and it's an interesting one. Just some things to think about, I think, as we dive in. But before we dive in, I would just encourage you to like, share, subscribe to YouTube. Download podcast, leave a review, rate it, and share it. Share the podcast and just get more people involved with honoring and glorifying God with all that they do, but especially their strengths, with what abilities and opportunities God has given us. We want to honor and glorify God with all that. So that is our mission, and just encourage you to do the same and encourage others to do the same. So let's get into it. Again, I don't know how long this one's going to be, but I wanted to just share these thoughts because I thought it was rather interesting. So to start the conversation that my coworker and I were having, I try and come up with a topic each day, but I honestly didn't have one. But earlier yesterday would have been, I was reading Proverbs 1, and my coworker he's a knowledgeable guy. He's a thinker, and so I wanted to pick his brain. He's not a Christian, so I just like to pick his brain and kind of just keep putting scripture in front of him, and hopefully someday he'll see the truth. But it always turns into some good conversation. So I just want to read this Proverbs 1:1-7 to start with. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise are their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So the question that I really posed was, what is knowledge? What is understanding? What is instruction? And what is the beginning of that? Just to see what his thoughts were. And he gave an interesting question or response, basically talking about how it's truth, knowledge and wisdom and instruction is truth, not necessarily provable. He put it in a much more elegant way, but not necessarily provable truth, but truth. And I thought that was interesting, coming from a non-Christian. And so the conversation continued, and then he brought up a question for me. And the question was, with AI or artificial intelligence, is there an end to knowledge? And originally, as I thought about it, I thought, I don't know if there's an end to knowledge, but I would I would suspect that there is a limitation with with knowledge as it knowledge in terms of artificial intelligence, being that it is man made. So I would suspect there's a limitation to it. And we kind of talked about that for a little while, and then we actually left, ended the conversation. And then as I was driving, I had the thought of, let me back up. So he brought up the fact that, with artificial intelligence and using basically human cells or cells of some kind, that, is it possible that, or will it be possible that basically this cell, the artificial intelligence, essentially, creates its own mind, or we create a mind for it that has thoughts and feelings, and can make its own decisions, and ultimately it turns on us. Um, kind of some iRobot stuff, but it's interesting to think, because where we are in life, and with all the artificial intelligence, with the um, genetics, and what scientists have done with genetics, and artificial intelligence. So, fast forward a little bit, we parted our ways, and as I thought about that, I had the thought of, maybe he's onto something. Maybe that is one of the beasts, the artificial intelligence, and something that we create, and maybe, as it talks about in Revelations, with the beast, that's the second beast, having the mark of the beast. I'll read it to you, a couple verses in Revelations 13, 16 through 18. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand and the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So I thought that was interesting because, there's definitely a correlation between barcodes, marks, and, being able to scan the barcode, and, just maybe there is a correlation there. But then I had the thought of, if we're looking at truth, wisdom, knowledge, instruction, the the question that he originally posed to me was, is there an end to wisdom, knowledge, instruction? And if we go back to Proverbs 1:7, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." Well, if fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, I would I would venture to say that pride is the end of knowledge, where we are prideful and we no longer fear God, fear the Lord. This would be the end of knowledge. This is where the fool begins to despise instruction, despise wisdom. So, you know, he asked the question, is there an end to knowledge? Or with the artificial intelligence, are we just going to have this vastness of knowledge? But the farther we get from God, the farther away we get from knowledge, because we become foolish, and we despise, or the foolish person despises wisdom and despises instruction. So I thought this was interesting, because the beginning of knowledge is the Lord, or the fear of the Lord. And the farther we move, and we can see this, we've seen this over time already, the farther we move away from the Lord, the farther we get from knowledge, and the more foolish people become, despising wisdom and instruction. So I just wanted to share that little story, um, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on your, the end of knowledge, um, based on what it says here. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and maybe this is just one of those conspiracy theories, or just crazy theory, but it was a thought that I had, and I wanted to share it because I don't think it's too far off. It's definitely not the theory of being at the end of knowledge when we are moving away from God. I definitely don't think that's off. That is on point in my mind. And again, we've seen this happen in our country, in Western societies, where the farther we get from God, the farther we push God away and despise the Bible, despise truth, despise wisdom, despise instruction, which that is what the Bible is. It's instruction for us. It is letters from God to us to instruct us how to live. And the farther we get away from that, the more foolish we become, and the more we try to become God. We become our own God. And as my coworker and I were talking about, the farther we get away from God, the farther we get away from purpose, and we begin to lose, or we've simply lost purpose. So now we have what we see in society: people trying to create their own purpose, and we have gender affirmations, we have the environmentalist, global warming people that are trying to create all these meaningful things to stand for, to stand with. But at the end of the day, there there is no purpose in it, because we all die. Eventually the world will be basically demolished and remade and turned new, but that's after it's over. So we've found ourselves in this spot where we are basically surrounded by people who are continually becoming foolish, and despising wisdom, despising God, and trying to find purpose in things that have no purpose. God is our purpose. To honor and glorify God is our purpose. To have a relationship with God, to love God with all of our heart, soul, body, strength, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. That is our purpose. And so it's interesting to just see how the farther we get away from God, from the Bible, the more we see lack of purpose and lack of knowledge, and the foolish people despising wisdom. So again, this is just some thoughts. that came out during a conversation that I wanted to share with you guys. And again, I would love to hear your thoughts. You can connect with me at surrender.strength on Instagram, surrender strength, Facebook, Nyland Lansing on Instagram. And again, just shoot me a message. Give me your thoughts. I would love to hear it. You can email me at nyland.lansing@gmail.com also. And yeah, I mean, this is just a hopefully something that will open up some conversation for you guys, and something to think about. Again, it's not necessarily new, but it's something that we need to be more aware of as we move forward into the future and into the chaotic world that we live in. So with that, I encourage you guys to continue to do what you do, use your abilities and opportunities to honor and glorify God, because that is our purpose. Thanks for listening. Connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Surrendered Strength. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share, and live the Surrendered Strength Code: discipline, courage, honor.